The winds of Epsilon 617 howled across the crystalline plains, carrying ice particles that sparkled like diamond dust in the weak light of the system's distant sun. Dr. Rowan Pierce stood at the viewport of Research Station Omega, her breath creating small clouds on the reinforced glass as she tracked an unusual energy signature on her handheld scanner. "Control, this is Dr. Pierce," she spoke into her comm unit. "The quantum fluctuations are getting stronger. Whatever crashed here 12 hours ago, it's still active." "Copy that, Doctor," came the response from Lieutenant Thomas Wright, the station security officer. "But remember protocol. No solo expeditions, especially not in this weather." Rowan smiled to herself, already zipping up her thermal suit. After 3 years studying extreme environment adaptations on this frozen world, she knew every protocol by heart, and exactly when they needed to be broken. The energy signature matched nothing in their database, and it was fading fast. "The storm will ground all vessels for the next 6 hours," she replied, checking her oxygen levels. "By then, whatever's out there could be dead. I'm going." She didn't wait for a response before stepping into the airlock. The station's AI automatically began the cycling sequence, and moments later, Rowan was trudging through knee-deep snow, following her scanner's guidance. The white expanse stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by towering spires of black ice that rose like ancient monoliths from the frozen ground. The trek took nearly an hour, each step carefully measured against the treacherous terrain. Finally, her scanner led her to a deep impact crater, partially hidden by fresh snowfall. At its center lay something that made her heart skip a beat, a container of clearly artificial origin, its surface marked with symbols unlike any human or known alien script. As Rowan approached, she noticed the container was damaged, a long crack running along one side. But what truly caught her attention was the faint, pulsing bioluminescence visible through the breach, a soft, aurora-like glow that seemed to respond to her presence. "Incredible," she breathed, carefully setting up her portable analysis equipment. The readings were off the charts, complex organic compounds, electromagnetic patterns that suggested neural activity, and something else, something that defied her instrument's classification systems. A sound, barely audible over the wind, made her freeze. It was coming from inside the container, a low, rhythmic vibration that seemed to resonate with the very air around her. Using her suit's enhanced strength, Rowan cleared away the accumulated ice around the container's access panel. The panel itself was sophisticated, but the damage had compromised its security systems. After several tense minutes of careful manipulation, it yielded to her efforts with a soft hiss. As the seal broke, the bioluminescence intensified, and Rowan found herself face to face with something that would forever change her understanding of life in the universe. Inside, curled protectively around 3 smaller forms, was a creature that seemed to shift between states of matter like water changing phase. Its body was simultaneously solid and fluid, its surface rippling with patterns of light that spoke of both intelligence and pain. The smaller beings, offspring, Rowan realized with a start, were barely maintaining cohesion, their forms flickering like candles in a wind. But it was the creature's eyes that captured Rowan's full attention. They were deep pools of awareness, filled with fear, desperation, and something that transcended the boundaries of species, a mother's love for her children. The creature made another sound, this one clearly a warning. Its form solidified slightly, taking on crystalline edges that Rowan instinctively understood could be weapons if needed. But she could also see the effort this defense was costing it, how each moment of maintaining solid form drained its already depleted energy. "I won't hurt you," Rowan said softly, knowing her words meant nothing but hoping her tone might convey her intent. She slowly reached into her sample kit and pulled out an energy cell, the kind they used to power their more demanding research equipment. With deliberate movements, she placed it near the container's opening. The adult creature's patterns shifted, curiosity briefly overriding fear. One tendril of its form extended cautiously toward the energy cell, touching it with almost scientific precision. The moment contact was made, the cell's charge began to drain, but the creature's bioluminescence strengthened noticeably. Rowan's mind raced with implications. These beings weren't just intelligent, they were energy manipulators, capable of directly absorbing and presumably converting various forms of energy. The container they were in, she now recognized its interior lining as having power-dampening properties. Someone had wanted to contain these creatures, to study or exploit their unique abilities. Her comm unit crackled to life. Dr. Pierce, we're picking up an unauthorized ship entering the atmosphere. Configuration unknown, but it's heading toward your position. Whatever you've found, you need to clear out. Now. Rowan looked at the family of beings before her, then at her scanner showing the approaching vessel. Protocol dictated she should return to the station and file a report, letting the proper authorities handle first contact with a new species. Protocol could go to hell. I'm going to help you, she told the creature, already pulling more energy cells from her kit. But we need to move fast. She began disconnecting the container's remaining restraint systems, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The adult creature's form rippled with what might have been surprise or uncertainty. Then, with great effort, it gathered its offspring closer and began to flow toward the container's opening. As it moved, its surface displayed a complex pattern of light and color that Rowan's scientist's heart knew was communication, even if she couldn't yet understand it. High above, the unknown ship's engines became audible over the wind's howl. Time was running out, and Rowan Pierce was about to make a decision that would either end her career or change the course of human-alien relations forever. She chose hope. The service tunnels beneath Research Station Omega were never meant for housing alien life forms. Yet here was Dr. Rowan Pierce, carefully sealing the entrance to an abandoned maintenance bay while her newfound companions rippled and flowed in the darkness behind her. The mother creature, whom Rowan had started calling Aurora for the way her bioluminescent patterns resembled Earth's polar lights, had grown stronger after absorbing energy from several more power cells. Her 3 offspring, however, still struggled to maintain coherent forms. The approaching vessel has landed 2 kilometers from the impact site. Lieutenant Wright's voice came through her personal comm. Dr. Pierce, where are you? The station's sensors show you entering through the maintenance level, but you're not responding to general hails. Rowan took a deep breath before responding. I'm fine, Thomas. Just running some routine checks on the thermal regulators. The storm's putting extra stress on the systems. The lie tasted bitter, but she needed time to figure out her next move. Doctor. Wright's tone carried warning. Our visitors are claiming to be from the Galactic Science Coalition. They say they're tracking dangerous escaped specimens. Ring any bells? In the darkness, Aurora's patterns shifted to deeper blues and purples. The creature moved closer to Rowan, and suddenly the human's mind was filled with impressions, fragments of memory that weren't her own. She saw sterile laboratories, felt the pain of invasive experiments, experienced the terror of watching her children being subjected to tests that pushed their unique physiology to breaking points. Rowan gasped as the connection broke. They're not specimens, she whispered, both to herself and into the comm, they're refugees. What was that? Wright asked sharply. Nothing. I need to finish these checks. Pierce out. She switched off her comm unit entirely, knowing it would raise red flags but seeing no alternative. Aurora's surface rippled with what Rowan was beginning to recognize as anxiety. The creature's offspring huddled closer to their mother, their forms occasionally merging and separating like drops of mercury. One of the little ones, the smallest, was showing signs of destabilization, its patterns becoming erratic. Rowan's scientific training warred with her emotional response. These beings clearly needed specialized care, equipment she didn't have access to. The proper course of action would be to report their presence, to let experts handle first contact protocols. But those experts had already shown their true colors in the memories Aurora had shared. A soft chime from her tablet interrupted her thoughts. It was an automated alert, the station's main airlock was cycling. Someone was coming in from the storm. "We need to move," Rowan muttered, gathering her supplies. But Aurora was already flowing toward the smallest offspring, her patterns showing increasing distress. The little one's form was becoming more transparent, its bioluminescence flickering like a dying light. Understanding hit Rowan like a physical blow. The child was dying. Without fully understanding why, Rowan found herself removing her glove and reaching toward the struggling offspring. Aurora's patterns flashed in alarm, but she didn't interfere. The moment Rowan's hand made contact with the small creature, she felt a jolt of connection far stronger than before. Images and sensations flooded her consciousness, not just from Aurora this time, but from the entire family unit. She saw their home world, a place where reality itself seemed fluid, where their species existed in harmony with the ever-changing energies of their environment. She felt their deep bonds of kinship, the way they shared not just memories but their very essence with each other. And she understood what the little one needed. "They weren't just containing you," Rowan gasped as the connection faded. "They were isolating you. Your species needs regular energy exchange, not just absorption, but sharing between individuals. The children especially." Aurora's patterns formed complex swirls of confirmation. In their natural state, the entire community would contribute to nurturing the young, sharing energy and experiences freely. The containment had cut them off from this vital exchange. Footsteps echoed in the distant corridor. Time was running out. "I have an idea," Rowan said, already pulling equipment from her pack. "But you'll have to trust me completely." She began assembling a portable field generator, not the most elegant solution, but it might create the kind of energy environment the little one needed. Aurora's patterns shifted to a new configuration, one Rowan hadn't seen before. The creature extended a tendril of her form toward the generator, then toward Rowan's hand. The meaning was clear: she wasn't just asking to use the device, she was offering to show Rowan how to modify it properly. The footsteps were getting closer. Somewhere above, alarms began to sound. Someone had noticed the power drains from Rowan's stolen energy cells. With trembling fingers, Rowan accepted Aurora's offered connection. Knowledge flooded her mind, precise adjustments needed, frequencies to tune, ways to modulate the field that she never would have considered. Together, human and alien worked with desperate speed to create something that had never existed before, a hybrid of human technology and Aurora Kind's natural abilities. The little one's form stabilized almost immediately when they activated the modified generator. Its patterns brightened, synchronizing with its siblings in a dance of light that spoke of relief and renewed strength. But their victory was short-lived. The maintenance bay door shuddered as someone tried to override Rowan's security lockout. "Dr. Pierce." Lieutenant Wright's voice carried through the metal. "Open this door immediately. The GSC representatives are very clear about the danger these creatures pose. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Rowan looked at Aurora, at the family huddled around the jerry-rigged generator that was keeping the smallest alive. "No," she said quietly. "I don't think they understand what they're dealing with." Aurora's patterns shifted again, and this time the meaning was unmistakable: they needed to fight. Not just for survival, but for understanding. For the truth. The door's locking mechanism began to glow red as cutting tools were applied from the other side. Rowan Pierce, who had spent her career pursuing knowledge through careful observation and controlled experiments, prepared herself for a very different kind of scientific breakthrough. The truth about Aurora's kind needed to be revealed. But first, they had to survive the next few minutes. The maintenance bay erupted into chaos as the door finally gave way. Lieutenant Wright burst in with 2 security officers, their weapons drawn. Behind them stood 3 tall figures in environmental suits that were definitely not of human design. The suit surfaces rippled with a metallic sheen that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Step away from the specimens, Dr. Pierce," one of the alien representatives commanded through a translation unit. "You have no idea what you're interfering with." Rowan stood her ground, positioning herself between the intruders and Aurora's family. The modified field generator hummed behind her, its energy field now vital to the youngest one's survival. "I know exactly what I'm interfering with," she replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Illegal experimentation on sentient beings." Aurora's patterns flared with intense colors, and suddenly the temperature in the room plummeted. Frost began forming on the walls as the creature drew in thermal energy from their surroundings, converting it into a defensive barrier around her family. "See? Dangerous and unpredictable," another GSC representative said, raising some kind of energy weapon. "These beings cannot be allowed to roam freely. Their ability to manipulate energy makes them a threat to every technological civilization." "The only threat I've seen," Rowan countered, "is from those who would torture children in the name of scientific progress." She glanced at Lieutenant Wright, trying to make him understand. "Thomas, they're not just energy manipulators. They're conscious, intelligent beings with their own culture, their own way of life. The GSC didn't capture specimens, they kidnapped a family." Wright's weapon wavered slightly. "Doctor, even if that's true, we have protocols for first contact situations. You can't just..." "Enough." The lead GSC representative stepped forward. "Lieutenant, your station is in violation of multiple coalition treaties by harboring these creatures. If you don't assist in their recapture, we'll be forced to report this incident to your superiors." The security officers looked uncertainly between Wright and the aliens. The temperature continued to drop as Aurora gathered more energy, her offspring now fully enveloped in a swirling barrier of light and power. That's when Rowan's tablet chimed again, but this time it wasn't an alert. Lines of code scrolled across the screen, and she recognized the signature of Station Omega's AI, Aria. The artificial intelligence had been quietly observing everything through the station's sensors, and now it had made a decision of its own. "Actually," Rowan said, allowing herself a small smile, "I believe you'll find that we're not in violation of anything." She held up the tablet, displaying the results of Aria's deep scan of the GSC representative's credentials. "Because according to coalition records, your research division was officially disbanded 3 months ago after evidence of ethical violations came to light. You're not here on official business at all, are you?" The lead representative's translator crackled with harsh sounds that needed no interpretation, cursing. The alien raised its weapon, but Aurora moved faster than anyone could have predicted. A wave of pure energy rolled through the room, temporarily disrupting every electronic device. In the moment of darkness that followed, Aurora's form expanded dramatically, her bioluminescent patterns forming intricate geometric shapes that seemed to bend the space around them. When emergency power restored partial lighting, the GSC representatives found themselves encased in shells of frozen air, their weapons useless in their immobilized hands. Aurora's display of power had been precise, harmful to no one, but demonstrating capabilities far beyond what her captors had imagined. "Aria," Rowan called out, "send a direct transmission to GSC headquarters. Include all sensor logs and my personal observations of these beings' intelligence and social structure." She turned to Lieutenant Wright, who had lowered his weapon. "Thomas, I know I broke protocol. I'll accept whatever consequences come. But right now, we have to protect them." Wright studied the frozen GSC representatives, then looked at Aurora's family, the way the offspring stayed close to their mother, their patterns synchronized in what was clearly a complex form of communication. His military training warred with his basic humanity. Finally, he sighed. "Aria, seal off this section. Authorization Wright Delta 7. And..." He holstered his weapon, "begin recording official first contact protocols. It seems we have some legitimate diplomatic guests who require asylum." Aurora's patterns shifted to softer hues, and the temperature in the room gradually returned to normal. Through their growing connection, Rowan felt waves of relief and gratitude from the creature. But there was something else too, a sense of urgency, of something left unfinished. The smallest offspring had stabilized thanks to the modified generator, but Aurora's memories showed Rowan more, an entire community of their kind, held in similar containment facilities across the galaxy. Their rescue couldn't end here. As Aria began broadcasting their evidence to both Earth authorities and GSC headquarters, Rowan realized that this was just the beginning. They had won this battle, but exposing the truth about Aurora's species, and fighting for their freedom, would require something more than just breaking protocol. It would require rewriting humanity's understanding of life itself. The frozen GSC representatives could only watch as their carefully hidden program began to unravel. In the heart of Research Station Omega, an unlikely alliance of human, and energy beings had just changed the course of interstellar relations forever. And somewhere in the station's systems, Aria was already calculating the odds of success for their next move, because the rest of Aurora's people were still out there, waiting to be found. 3 days after the confrontation in the maintenance bay, Research Station Omega had been transformed. The central laboratory, once filled with standard geological testing equipment, now hummed with modified energy field generators. Aurora's family had been moved to these more comfortable quarters, where they could safely maintain their natural energy exchange patterns. Rowan sat at her workstation, surrounded by holographic displays showing data streams that defied conventional scientific classification. She had barely slept, too fascinated by what Aurora was teaching her about their species' true nature. "The data is extraordinary," Dr. Julian Blackwood, the station's chief physicist, murmured as he studied the readings. Earth Command had sent him specifically to verify Rowan's findings. "They're not just manipulating energy, they're living mathematics. Each pattern they generate is like a theorem made flesh." Through their strengthened connection, Aurora confirmed this understanding. Her species experienced reality as a continuous flow of mathematical principles. What humans saw as their shifting forms was actually the physical manifestation of complex equations being solved in real time. The youngest offspring, now fully recovered, demonstrated this by forming itself into a perfect Mobius strip, its bioluminescent patterns tracing the endless path along its surface. Its siblings joined in, their forms interweaving in ways that seemed to bend spatial dimensions. "But that's just the surface," Rowan said, pulling up another data set. "Watch this." She activated a quantum scanning array they had modified according to Aurora's specifications. The display showed something remarkable. As the Aurora-kind beings interacted, they weren't just exchanging energy. They were sharing quantum states, entangling their very existence in ways that transcended physical boundaries. "They're a collective consciousness," Rowan explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Not hive-minded, each is distinctly individual, but they're capable of sharing everything: memories, knowledge, experience, even their fundamental understanding of reality itself. That's why isolating them was so devastating. Imagine having part of your mind suddenly cut off." Lieutenant Wright, who had become an unlikely ally, frowned at the displays. "Which explains why that GSC research division went to such lengths to contain them. A species that can literally share consciousness? That kind of capability would terrify any group interested in maintaining control." The GSC representatives had been taken into custody by legitimate coalition authorities, their illegal research operation exposed. But their databases had revealed disturbing information: dozens of other facilities, each holding captured Aurora-kind beings in isolation. "We've identified 3 more facilities within range of Earth fleet vessels," Aria's calm voice announced, projecting a star map. "But attempting rescue operations could trigger an interstellar diplomatic crisis. The facilities are technically in neutral space." Aurora's patterns shifted to show determination. Through their connection, she shared with Rowan a vision of her home world, not just its appearance, but its fundamental nature. It was a place where the boundaries between matter and energy, between individual and collective, between thought and reality itself were fluid and ever-changing. "That's it," Rowan breathed, understanding dawning. "We've been thinking too small. This isn't just about rescuing prisoners or exposing illegal research. This is about understanding a completely new way of existing." She turned to Dr. Blackwood. "The Aurora kind aren't just another alien species, they're living proof that consciousness itself can evolve beyond our current understanding." The implications were staggering. If humans could learn to understand and communicate with beings who experienced reality so fundamentally differently, it could revolutionize everything from physics to philosophy, from computing to consciousness studies. Aurora gathered her offspring close, their patterns synchronizing in a display that drew gasps from the human observers. Together, they began generating mathematical proofs that flowed through space like liquid light, describing concepts that human science had barely begun to grasp. "They're offering to teach us," Rowan translated, her connection with Aurora growing stronger by the moment. "Not just about their technology or their biology, but about their way of perceiving and interacting with the universe itself." Dr. Blackwood's scientific skepticism warred visibly with his excitement. "The academic community will need convincing. This challenges every paradigm we've established about the nature of consciousness and reality." "Then we'll convince them," Rowan said firmly. "But first, we need to free the others. No one can truly understand the Aurora kind while they're studying imprisoned, isolated specimens. We need to interact with their entire community, to see how they function as a complete society." Aria's displays shifted, showing multiple potential rescue scenarios. "I have been analyzing patterns in GSC ship movements and facility protocols. With the element of surprise lost, they will likely begin moving the remaining Aurora kind to new locations. We have approximately 72 hours before our window of opportunity closes." Lieutenant Wright straightened his uniform. "I'll contact Earth Command. After what we've learned here, they can't ignore this. The Aurora kind aren't just victims of illegal experimentation, they're potentially the most important first contact humanity has ever made." Through their connection, Rowan felt Aurora's gratitude, but also her concern. The Aurora kind had hidden their true capabilities for eons, knowing that other species might react with fear to beings so different from themselves. By helping Rowan understand them, Aurora had taken an enormous risk. But as Rowan watched the offspring playing with quantum fields like human children might play with soap bubbles, she knew it had been worth it. The Aurora kind weren't just going to change humanity's understanding of the universe, they were going to change humanity itself. The next 72 hours would determine whether that change would begin with cooperation and mutual understanding, or with fear and conflict. Research Station Omega had become more than just a scientific outpost, it was now the focal point of a revolution in human consciousness. And Rowan Pierce, who had once been content studying extreme environment adaptations, found herself at the heart of the greatest scientific and philosophical discovery in human history. The true question wasn't whether they would succeed in freeing the other Aurora kind. The question was humanity ready for what would come after? The bridge of the Earth Command vessel Hyperion hummed with tension as Admiral Natasha Reed studied the tactical display. 3 GSC research facilities were marked in red, each holding captured Aurora kind beings. A joint fleet of Earth and legitimate GSC ships had gathered in neutral space, but the facility's defensive systems were active, their operators refusing to acknowledge commands to stand down. "They're threatening to terminate the specimens if we attempt entry," Captain Marcus Torres reported, his holographic image flickering slightly in the Hyperion's command center. On Research Station Omega, now serving as the Operation Scientific Hub, Rowan Pierce felt Aurora's fear spike at those words. The Aurora kind mother had insisted on joining the rescue mission, leaving her offspring in the care of her mate, who had arrived from their hidden homeworld after receiving her quantum-entangled call. "They're not bluffing," Rowan said, her connection with Aurora providing grim certainty. The GSC rogue faction would rather destroy their research subjects than let their illegal operations be exposed. Dr. Blackwood's fingers flew over his console, analyzing energy readings from the facilities. The containment systems are already showing power fluctuations. They're preparing to overload them. Admiral Reed's expression hardened. Then we're out of options. All ships, prepare for emergency breach protocols. Our priority is... Wait. Rowan interrupted, an idea forming as she felt Aurora's patterns shift into a new configuration. What if we don't need to breach at all? What if we could reach the Aurora kind directly? Through their connection, Aurora shared her plan. It was ambitious, perhaps impossible by human standards, but it represented everything they had learned about her species' true capabilities. The quantum entanglement, Rowan explained quickly. Aurora's people don't just share consciousness temporarily, once connected, they maintain a subtle link across any distance. If we can boost the signal enough. Dr. Blackwood caught on immediately. We could use our fleet's combined communication arrays to amplify their quantum resonance patterns. Create a sort of consciousness bridge. Admiral Reed raised an eyebrow. You're suggesting we turn our entire fleet into a giant psychic amplifier? More like a quantum telecommunications network, Rowan said. But yes. Aurora believes she can reach her imprisoned people, show them what we've learned, help them remember their full capabilities. The containment systems suppress their abilities, but they can't completely sever the quantum links between them. The power requirements would be enormous, Captain Torres warned. Then it's fortunate we have allies who specialize in energy manipulation, Rowan replied, looking at Aurora, whose patterns had begun to glow with unprecedented intensity. The next hour was a blur of activity as the fleet repositioned itself in a precise geometric pattern, each ship's communications array aligned to create a quantum resonance field. Aurora took position in Omega's main laboratory, surrounded by modified energy generators. Field integrity at maximum, Arya reported. Quantum coherence established across all nodes. Ready to begin transmission. Rowan took a deep breath, placing her hand against the barrier separating her from Aurora. Their connection, already strong, deepened into something transcendent. Through Aurora's perception, Rowan felt the quantum field expand, reaching across space like ripples in a cosmic pond. And then, suddenly, they weren't alone. Consciousness after consciousness joined their link, each one a unique symphony of mathematical patterns and energy states. The imprisoned Aurora kind, responding to Aurora's call, began to remember who and what they truly were. Inside the research facilities, alarms blared as containment systems registered massive energy fluctuations. The Aurora-kind beings, their power suppressed but never truly eliminated, began to resonate with their restored connection to their kind. Energy spikes in all three facilities, Dr. Blackwood reported, his voice filled with awe. The patterns, they're synchronizing. Through the expanded connection, Rowan felt the moment when understanding cascaded through the entire Aurora-kind collective. In an instant, every imprisoned being knew what had happened on Research Station Omega, understood that humanity had chosen to ally with them rather than fear them. The containment fields, designed to hold isolated specimens, stood no chance against their unified consciousness. Reality itself seemed to ripple as dozens of Aurora-kind beings phased through solid matter, their forms blazing with restored power. Multiple contacts emerging from the facilities, Captain Torres announced. But our sensors can't, they're doing something to local spacetime. Aurora's consciousness gently withdrew from the deep connection, leaving Rowan with a final gift of understanding. The Aurora kind hadn't needed rescuing, not really. They had needed humanity to prove itself ready for true contact, to demonstrate that at least one species could choose understanding over fear. As the freed Aurora-kind beings joined the fleet in space, their forms creating patterns of impossible beauty against the star field, Admiral Reed made a decision that would be remembered for generations. All ships, power down weapon systems, she ordered. Let's show our new allies that humanity's first institutional response to them will be one of peace. The Aurora kind responded by creating a display that defied description, a symphony of light and energy that spoke of gratitude, hope, and possibility. Through their unified field of consciousness, they began sharing knowledge that would transform human understanding of physics, mathematics, and the nature of reality itself. Research Station Omega became humanity's first Aurora kind embassy, a place where scientists and philosophers could learn from beings who experienced existence as a continuous flow of mathematical truth and conscious energy. The offspring whom Rowan had helped save became bridges between the species, their natural curiosity about humans matching humanity's curiosity about them. Years later, Rowan stood at her old viewport, watching Aurora kind and human children learning together in the station's new quantum physics lab. The human children wore specially designed interfaces that let them experience hints of Aurora kind consciousness, while the Aurora kind youngsters practiced maintaining solid forms to better interact with their physical companions. Aurora, now a respected elder among both species, flowed up beside her. Their connection had become something unprecedented, neither fully human nor fully Aurora kind, but a new form of consciousness that represented the potential of both species. "We never needed to save you," Rowan said softly. "You were saving us. From our own fear of the unknown." Aurora's patterns shifted in what Rowan now recognized as their equivalent of laughter. Through their link, she shared a vision of the future, one where humanity's compassion and the Aurora kind's understanding of universal consciousness would help both species face whatever mysteries the cosmos held. The story of a human who chose to save an alien wolf and her young had become legend among both species. But the true legacy wasn't in the rescue itself, it was in the moment when humanity, faced with something utterly beyond its understanding, chose to reach out with compassion rather than strike out in fear. Above Research Station Omega, the stars seemed to shimmer with new meaning, as if the universe itself was acknowledging that something profound had changed in the relationship between consciousness and reality, between different forms of life, between fear and understanding. The legacy of compassion had only begun to unfold.